You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sharice Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 73. I thought I'd do a solo episode this week because we've had loads of guests on for the past few weeks, which has been absolutely amazing. And I do have a few guests lined up, but I thought I'd just sneak in here to give you a little something. And also because the energy has been wild in these streets. If you are listening up to date, you will kind of be, well, to be honest, I haven't really spoke too heavily about astrology in the last few podcasts, but if you follow me on social media, you'll know that Scorpio season is just heavy, and we had Venus in Scorpio, we had Mercury in Scorpio. So Mercury is about our communication and how we think. It also affects transportation and technology as well. So we are prepping to go into Mercury retrograde. Not to scare you, that'll happen throughout I was going to say September then, but December. Wow, the year is a going. And then Venus, obviously that's all about money. It's about nice things, luxuries, and also obviously relationships. So if those points have been in the spotlight for you, also your home environment, Scorpio is about the home. So yeah, just a little bit more on that, because I feel like if you are going through heaviness right now, as I said at the beginning, I very much have been, and it's because I have no water in my chart. So, I mean, if you're not into astrology, I'm going to make this simple for you to understand. So basically, we have 12 houses in astrology. They're all the houses represent different parts of your personality. So as I was saying, the home, like your relationships at home, your actual house, that's all affected. So a lot of people are a bit like, oh, that makes no sense to me. But, in Mercury retrograde, when things go wrong and people are like, why are things going wrong? Is Mercury in the microwave? Yes, that's what we mean, right? But it's the same with general astrology. So in Scorpio season, Scorpio is the planet of death and rebirth, right? So things come to an end. We're in old cycles. And Pluto, which is the planet of death and rebirth, by the way, and I know it's a dwarf planet and all of the things that everyone says, but Pluto affects the collective. So everyone on a grand scale is affected by Pluto. It's called a generational planet. So Mercury and Venus and all those little planets in between affect us personally. Pluto affects us collectively, and Pluto is in charge of Scorpio, and it's about to move out of Capricorn, which it's been in for like 20 years, right? Well, it's actually 15, but that's going to move into Aquarius at the end of November when we hit Sagittarius season, which is one of my favorite seasons, because if you know a Sagittarius, they're great. I don't know any bad Sagittariuses. Shout out to you guys. And yeah, I know quite a lot of Scorpios that have a sting, right? They have a sting. Love them still, but they're mysterious. You don't always know where you stand with them. I dated a Scorpio. I won't be doing that again. Lol. I dated two Scorpios. Yeah, I won't be doing that again. They're not for me. They're not for me, guys. Just saying. If they're quite manipulative, my niece is a Scorpio. I mean, I think the world of her, but she could do some dangerous things in this world if we nurtured her in the wrong way. Just saying, okay? But equally, Scorpios as a whole are creative, innovative, intelligent. There's some really lovely things about Scorpio too, but they have to be used for good. Because yeah, I'm just saying, if we could put a Disney villain to Scorpio, it would be Ursula from Little Mermaid. Just to give you a kind of visualization there on what I'm talking about. Yeah. pretending to be the other princess to win the guy over so Little Mermaid didn't win. Yeah, that part. Um, but I'm not hating on Scorpios right now. I'm just telling you that's the energy of what we're going through right now. And I really sat in it this week. Like, also, this podcast is predominantly for women, so I'm going to talk about the fact that PMS season right now, okay? That all adds to it. And I'm saying this because again, I share my truth because I know it resonates with a lot of you. And it is that thing about our hormones are something we can't control, right? So then when you put that in a season where we are being challenged emotionally, because that is, water signs affect our emotions, and it's a fixed sign, which means that there's no budging on it. Like if you think about Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, Leo, stubborn, right? The shadow side of those signs, stubborn. And I can say that I'm a double Leo. I know about that, right? And I've had to really do the work to not be stubborn. So that is part of it. So there's this like friction of wanting to be emotional, but also feeling resistance. That's it. That's the key kind of feeling of Scorpio season, and knowing that something has to shift. So at the start of the week, I agreed to do a world dance workshop. Now I don't do them really at all. I've probably done three in the last, don't know, 3 or 4 months. So I haven't done many at all. And I'm trying to avoid doing it because I'm not feeling as fulfilled as I used to. And that's a really big part of the work that I teach, is that if your soul is out of alignment with the work that you do, it's not healthy for you, right? I had another big investment that I paid out for at the beginning of this month for my mentor, and that's the last payment that I've had for her. So that payment came out. Then I did the job that I was going to do, the dance job, and it was just bring up these old energies of patterns and cycles that made me feel uncomfortable. One is obviously shifting lots of money. The next one was going into an old cycle again of feeling like I was doing the old work that wasn't fulfilling me, that made me feel like an older version of myself where I had to work really hard to make money. Right. So, can you see here how my mind built up the old case study again because it was relative to what I was currently feeling in my 3D reality? And like the 3D, I talk about this quite a lot, is what we see in front of us, right? But the 4D and the 5D is what we feel energetically. So in my 5D space, I am my highest self. I'm manifesting with ease. I'm feeling confident in flow, in my feminine energy. But sometimes in the 3D, which is heavy and dense, which is currently what we're feeling so much of, especially if you are listening up to date and you know about the elections in America and how we're affected by that as women and like all of those things, right? I haven't delved too much into that because again, I can only be responsible for my thoughts and feelings, and I choose not to give my power away to certain things. However, in my personal life, as I said, physically repeating an old pattern of doing a job that I didn't want to do or enjoyed. Now, don't get me wrong, when I was there, I had a good time. Like, I made the best out of the situation, but I came away feeling exhausted. But after that, later on in the day, I had a client call, and that completely shifted my energy, which was beautiful because it was a reminder of, especially, I'm going to talk about a few different modalities here, but human design isn't something I teach, but I do have a friend that does it. So if anyone wants to have a human design reading, she's just starting out, so she's doing it really, really cheap, but it's so helpful because this is the thing. I use astrology as a way to help people understand themselves. And again, if you're listening to this thinking it feels all over the place, when you do work with me, I make that very clear. And what I will say as well is I am starting a free community going into all of the details about this. So I'm going to be going live in that group each week talking about this in a bit more detail. So the link to join that group is in the descriptions, because I feel like I give quite a broad thing about what's going on energetically. So for people that don't get it, I feel like this is going to be something that you can actually say to me, what does that mean for me though, as a Aries, right? So I can go into all the details about that. So just to clarify, I will be supporting you more in that. But coming back to this friction feeling, that call and like the manifesting generator in me, which is my human design, I am fulfilled by the things I enjoy. And I know a lot of people are, but there's different ways that we respond or react or act. And they're the key words here into what defines what human design type you are. Because some people, they feel much more aligned and motivated when they just take action. Doesn't matter what the action is, they take one action that makes them feel more confident about themselves or the decision that they're making. For me, I have to respond. So that's the best way that I do it. So, for example, I could watch something on TV and, hear this like one word that could come to my mind, right? So, for example, I've just created an Instagram post about belief. I'm listening to a book called Psycho Cybernetics. Really incredible book so far. Super gritty about mindset and things like that. A lot of these books are things that I already teach, but I love hearing different points of view, and there's always little nuggets in there. So, for example, that word belief and the way it was relayed to me reminds me of the things that I talk about with belief. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to create a post on that. That's me responding. Yeah. And that I know as a byproduct of responding, that post will be good and potent because I've taken the initiative, right? I've acted on hearing that or feeling that that was right. Some people have to sit back, surrender, be completely in their feminine energy and feel what feels right and then take the step. And that's all of these like human design kind of things that, and again, this is humanness, by the way, right? It's human design is what it's called, but it is humans, right? It's your behavior patterns. But I think what is helpful is understanding why. And I think that's a really big part of, me as a person is I like to know why everything happens the way it does. So when there's a modality that shows me that, I'm interested in it. I'm not going to teach human design. That's just not what I want to do. But I love that it's there and I can dive into that, just like astrology. Astrology feels like my bag because it's a bit more creative. Equally, I wouldn't call myself an astrologist. I wouldn't, right? But I use it as a tool to support myself and my clients because I think that it's another way for people to see what makes sense because I love to join the dots. That's my thing, right? So even now, it's taken me all week to get to the point where I could look back on the start of the week and see that that little feeling of the big shift in money, the doing the job I didn't want to do, created a loop of perpetuation of the old version of me. So even though I had that really good call after with the client, the rest of the week I went into overwork mode. So I just went into my masculine, right? And again, this is hormone related because what our brain is wired for is safety. And the safety is the pattern that we already know. So I have been doing my healing journey for 5 years. Okay, this new way of doing things, this feminine energy space, this new tools and practices that work for me that I understand and know. But when hormone Charisse takes over and burnt out Charisse takes over and toxic masculine Charisse then feels like she has permission to come back up and take up all the room, right? So she snuck in through the back door and I didn't even see her take over, right? And I sat in with her for most of the week and I couldn't figure out why I felt exhausted, burnt out, drained. Again, PMS is part of this, right? But Friday, I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. So then that was the higher self me take over and say, no, we're not doing it like that. From that one choice of grounding myself back in, because again, you have to stop when you're in this cycle of doing the things you don't want to do and you feel you're overexhausted. And even though there's loads to do, taking that action to pause was a game changer. And that one action of grounding myself in, doing less, and just not focusing on work for the day, I actually felt more productive as a byproduct, but also I was able to reflect on why I was doing what I was doing and why I was feeling the way I was. So if you don't stop and observe why you're doing what you're doing, you don't realize what you're doing. Yeah. And that's a self-awareness piece. That's a piece that I will sing until the cows come home. Because again, your brain is wired for what you know and what it's familiar with. So if for 1 second you fall into burnout or you fall into a feeling of lack and low vibration, is because your brain has been occupied with the old pattern, or you've been an autopilot. So again, the subconscious, 95% of your brain and your thoughts takes over. When you can ground yourself, you allow all of those feelings and thoughts that have risen up. Again, this is all the Scorpio thing, right? All of these old patterns and old cycles to come up to the surface. You can then allow them to, first of all, again, my formula, the 4 steps, you understand them, accept them, release them, and then rebuild that new cycle again, or reinforce the things you know that work for you. But you will never be able to move through that if you don't stop to recognize it. Because this was my old pattern. I would have kept going, kept pushing forward, kept forcing, and I probably would have ended up ill, right? That's just the way it was. And I noticed that my skin started to flare up, and I was like, whoa, I'm in stress mode right now. I need to stop that. And then as a byproduct, again, I talk about journaling all the time. It's something that I use as a practice, and I'll do it either in the morning or in the evening, whatever feels more aligned to me. Again, listening to my body and myself, that when I was sitting down to reflect, I was like, ah, there we are. That's the golden nugget there. So I'm kind of saying all of this to inspire you to look at what is the cycle that you're repeating at the moment, because it's that very cycle. And again, on the post that I created about belief, that has your beliefs of whatever it is, like whether it is that the fact that for mine was, I needed to work hard in order to have a nice life, that was my old cycle. So I then repeated, working really hard in order to have a nice life. So what is yours? What's the reason you do it? Maybe you people please because you feel like being a good girl was the only way that you were, seen, heard, or in your eyes appreciated, right? So now you're getting walked over by your friends, by colleagues, by your boss, by your partner, because you believe that being a good girl and being there for everyone else was the right thing to do. That's that part. It could be that, like me, you have been an overachiever because you believed that being successful was working really hard. Yeah, you didn't know there was a way to do less and actually receive more, because that wasn't really taught to us, again, when in that hustle culture. Now we're in the space where divine feminine energy is coming through, and we get to be creative and earn lots of money and do nice things and do the things we enjoy and follow our passions. But we didn't know that growing up, right? So I want you to look at the belief that you're telling yourself and just write it down. Just write down whatever that belief is for you right now. And then think about where that comes from. Because again, my cycle of working really hard, mine was to prove myself. That's where it comes from. I watched my family go through feast and famine cycles, and really it was famine by the end of it. I had when I was growing up, my dad had his own business, but obviously because he was an alcoholic, he got too drunk. He just effed the business basically because of that. And then he had to declare himself bankrupt. And my mum is actually still now paying off his debt, and he died 16 years ago. So that's just a bit of a nod to why my money situation is what it is because I've always watched my family struggle to earn money. So from the age of 15, I got my first job, and I had worked multiple jobs per day since that time in order to have a nice life. And I was able to create that for myself, and treat my family and do beautiful, nice things and gifts and travel, as you all probably know from my socials and or listening to me. And now I'm having to retrain that in myself to be like, no, 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 we don't do a lot. We don't do a lot. We get to enjoy peace, rest, and know that money comes because of that vibration. We don't have to be on the hamster wheel. We get to just be in flow. We get to be like a butterfly and enjoy life and actually trust that abundance comes, you know? It's all of that energy that is my shift. And my belief was that I needed to prove myself to people and to feel worthy and deserving. I loved being called the hardworking person, you know, I loved um yeah, I just loved the idea that people saw me as a hard worker, and I felt like people respected me more because of it. And actually, people that didn't work very hard, I thought were either lazy or entitled. I don't think that anymore. I think you're onto something. And actually, I'm probably one of them. If I look back now at myself then, I'd be like, oh, gosh, you actually just spend a couple of hours on the laptop a day. Like, what the hell is that? Now, don't get me wrong, I actually work a lot still because I'm doing all the roles in my business, which will change from next year, which I'm really excited for. But this is the work I love, you know, jumping on the podcast, having conversations, speaking with my clients, either even in the DMs or in person, being with other women, you know, being with people in general. I just love that so much and it fulfills me. And I did love dance for such a large part of my life. And I don't not love it now. I just feel like it's not my purpose anymore. And that's such a beautiful space to be in, right? So this is where we need to ask ourselves these questions, you know, and the full moon is coming up next week. So all of this energy, and again, like I said, the ending of cycles is coming up with Pluto moving into Aquarius. You know, that is a generational shift that's happening. All of the patriarchal ways of doing things, again, working hard, all of those things, this is all linked to that. And especially because the full moon's in Taurus, that's that grounded sign. It's about to reroute us into this new cycle. And as it does, you know, we're coming to sort of near enough the end of Scorpio season. And as Scorpio season ends, lots of shifts will happen. So whatever Scorpio is forcing you to look at right now, again, for me, this hard working energy that's dominated my whole life, it's because it's ready to be let go of, you know? So I want you to look at what that is in your life right now. What can you actually let go of? What beliefs, what old systems that you've believed for a long time? All of that energy is really what the universe, the stars, everything is asking you to let go of. Because the problem is, if you don't let go of that energy now, it will continue to perpetuate into the new cycle. And that's not what I want for you. I really don't want that for you. I want you to feel liberated with the new energy. And again, thinking about my 4 steps, if you don't understand and accept why things have been the way they are, you won't be able to release them. You just won't, you know? That's why I say to people, you can't just do affirmations on top of the crappy feelings that you've always felt about yourself, because you're just, you know, it's like putting icing on top of a poo. It's not going to make it a cake. You know what I mean? Don't know where that came from, but I hope you understand what I mean by that. It's like you need to release out what doesn't serve you before you rebuild, you know, before you get to the good part. And I think that's the bit that everyone feels like it's going to be really hard. And I hear it all the time, you know, people don't want to do this work because they think it's going to be hard, but actually it's not hard, it's liberating. It is liberating. Imagine just for a second that the weight of whatever it is you felt you were holding on to, you know, that proving energy, that even that playing small, and it feels like you are crammed inside of a box and you're squished right up into the corner. But the minute you realize that the reason you've been squished into that corner is from everything you went through in your life, from seeing the way your parents live, from seeing the way your friends treated you, from, you know, repeating these cycles over and again has made you really small, you get to stand up and break that cage that has kept you trapped for so long. That isn't scary, that's liberating. That's what freedom feels like in your mind, body, and soul. And what you need to do first is give yourself the permission to spread your wings and be free. Because the moment you do that, that is when you can fly. That is when you can rebuild a new solid system that isn't a small cage, but a whole field, a whole world of possibilities and opportunities, because you deserve that. So that's how we stop you from feeling the way you've always felt, right? So, as always, if this feels like, I'm resonating with what you say, what I'm saying, and it feels like that's you right now, drop me a DM. Let's have a chat about it, because I think, I always say the way we've done something will be the way we continue to do something if we don't change it. And that really is it. And it's so easy. I think we make it feel really hard because it's what we've always believed. If I take my sister, for example, in an abusive relationship for 5 years. And when she was in it, she was like, this is so hard. I don't know how to get out of it. I'm so stuck. And then she took one step forward to get out of it. And then one step again, one step again. And we are there to support her the whole way through. And don't get me wrong, those were the hardest moments of my life, watching my sister repeat what we grew up in. And actually, even worse, that was the worst. I've seen her in some horrible situations that I would never want to see anyone in again. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. But this was when I learned boundaries, in that 5 years that I've done my healing work. The universe was saying, okay, how much have you healed? And testing me with that, right? I'm testing her because, she did relapse and go back to him and all those things in between that. But that's part of the healing journey, right? If you've been in an abusive relationship or watched someone go through it, you will understand what I mean. And, failing to go back again, to come forward again, that's all part of the cycle, and it's all okay. Okay. But, you don't need to have gone through all of that for it to be that hard, right? It could just be as simple as, you wanted to lose weight and you occasionally have a cake and you binge, right? That's okay. There's small micro and macro versions of this. But for my sister now, she literally cannot recognize who she became. And her advice to someone that's in that situation is like, why are you still with them? Get out of it. And then she forgets that she was in it and she lost herself in that cycle because she's so far removed from that version of herself now that she can't even recognize that she got to that state. And I say that to her, and I said that to her when she was in it. I said to her, this isn't you. This is not you. This is not who you are. This is something that person has made you become, and depleted you so much that you believe it. So now she's reclaimed all of her power. She doesn't even, she's so liberated, she's so free, her wings are so wide that she can't even imagine that herself became that small. So this is the beauty of this work and journey. And even seen it in my clients, and I could use plenty of client examples, but I felt like, that example for my sister is something that I've lived through. And like she always says to me, if I wasn't there to help her, she wouldn't have got out. And this is the thing, right? My dad passed away, so my mum didn't actually make that step to leave my dad. He died. So she didn't even watch someone make that step. She had to create a new generational cycle for herself. And that takes courage, right? But what I'm saying is, when you're in the problem, it feels heavy and hard. You feel stuck, you feel lost. But all you need to take is one step. And you just writing down and identifying what that step is you understanding it. Because from that point of understanding it, you accept it. And then from there, you can release it. And like I said, with that full moon coming up, full moons are all about releasing. And I'm going to be going live in my new free group. So come and join me there, because I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to give you the ritual that you can do. And yeah, then you can release and make space for this new energy coming through, with Pluto shifting, with Sagittarius coming in, because this is the thing, Sagittarius is the archer. So you pull, that arrow pulls back and it's going to launch you a million miles forward, right? A million miles forward. And then Capricorn comes in, that's the new year, to put those plans into action. So we are in such a pivotal moment in humanity. So it feels hard right now, but trust me, like I said, that's the arrow pulling you back, because Sagittarius is going to launch you forward and Capricorn season is going to show you how. And then we're in 2025. So you are in such a beautiful space right now to actually release what no longer serves you, And I say that all the time, the full moons, but the fact we're in Scorpio season, the fact that it's hard, the fact that it's heavy, it's all come up for a reason, to show you how you can transform, how you can change, how you can become the person that you are here to be, right? So on that note, I'm going to leave it there. But I want you to know that even if it feels hard right now, What is this teaching you? And you have overcome 100% of all the hard things you've been through, right? So don't think that right now this is the end. It's absolutely not. The phoenix turns to ash and rises from the ashes. That again is part of the Scorpio way. So really look at what you're ready to burn. And in the full moon session that I'm going to do, we will burn stuff. Burning stuff is a great release, energetically, physically, and spiritually, all of those things, which I love. But ultimately, the universe is constantly giving us signs to up level, to step into that version of ourselves that we dream of, that we feel. And, my meditation, I've got a higher self one. So if you want to do that, I'll pop the link in as well. But this is all about showing you what's possible. And now it's time to become it. I don't want to stay the same. I don't want to repeat old cycles. And don't get me wrong, the universe shows us like now that little trigger of that old belief system was enough to reactivate me to be like, okay, yeah, don't want to do that again. Let's reshift, And because I'm so self-aware, I can identify it to make those shifts. But I remember past versions of me being down into a spiral of perpetuating an old pattern and then end up being depressed at the bottom. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't, I promise you. So I'm sending you lots of love. And my soul to soul message, I guess, for you today is trust the process, release control, identify what it is that's holding you back, and be prepared to release it next week. And, I haven't said this in a long time, but, my affirmations when I was going through the worst thing in my life, the worst parts of healing, that dark night of the soul, my affirmations that I repeated to myself every single night were, you are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, you are enough, and you are worthy of your dreams. I love you. Thank you for being here. And all my links are below, and I'll see you next week. Love you. Bye.
If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow, and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you'll find out about all of my upcoming events and speaking opportunities and all of the things that I have going on. And also, if you would like to work with me, please do drop me a DM on any of my socials or through my website. Love and light.